tell about when I got it on with a cactus. When I was around 14, a friend of mine used to live on a farm, and whenever I visited, which was practically every weekend, we would spend hours scouring the property looking for any kind of war memorabilia. Their property was huge, so we would go as far as we could, playing games and searching for war artifacts. For context, we live in South Africa. The farm is situated in an area where the Anglo-Boer War took place. We have found what we believe to be unmarked graves of soldiers and cannonballs. On one particularly hot day, we ventured quite far. After spending hours just messing around and not finding anything, we came across a cactus. Seeing as we were hot and thirsty, we decided to put the movie trope to test, the trope being that cacti contain copious amounts of water. My friend, being ever resourceful, had a knife with him, so we cut off a piece for each of us, and we hoped that we would be rewarded with the sweet, watery nectar of the cactus. We of course discovered the crushing truth that the movies lied to us. The interior of the cactus piece was hollow and fleshy. There was a rather viscous fluid. It was too thick to flow properly. We then had another bright idea. Seeing as the cactus piece was hollow and fleshy, this would be a great masturbatory tool, and to get experience what sex felt like. So we both went out of view from each other and got down to the deed. Boys and girls, the interior of the cactus felt cold and hard to my erect member. Not pleasurable at all. After a short time of doing the cactus, I got bored as it didn't feel too great. I removed the cactus, and to my horror, there on my glistening wiener were worms wiggling all over my D. I screamed in terror and began swatting the offending creatures off my member. My friend came running to see what the issue was, and upon explaining it to him, he fell to the floor in hysterics. I was terrified of getting an infection. I had no clue how I would explain this to my folks or to the doctors. Luckily, all that happened was a mentally scarred experience, and my friend teasing me for years. I'm the asshole for speaking to my Italian girlfriend's rude Italian-American family and embarrassing them. For a little backstory, due to my dad's job, we lived in Italy for 3 years when I was younger, so I speak Italian almost fluently. It's been a while, so I've lost some of it. Recently, I started dating a girl. She's great and I love her so much. I met her family a few nights ago for dinner. She warned me that the male side of her family is very big into being macho, into testing the boys the women date, and are very big on taking pride in their Italian ancestry. I think besides the grandfather, however, they were almost all born in Bergen County, New Jersey, but whatever. It's nice to take pride in one's heritage. So, long story short, at dinner they kept making jokes at my expense. I honestly would not call it bullying, just things about my height, beard, shaved head. They tried to make fun of my IT job too, but stopped once I told them my income. It was overall not a bad experience, but a not so pleasant one either. Anyway, her older brother kept pushing things, giving me exceptional amounts of shit for playing lacrosse in high school. Apparently, it's a sport for prissy rich kids and not manly like football or baseball. He ended his rant by saying, "Hey, we're just a big Italian family. We're allowed and tell it how we see it." And all of the family except my girlfriend laughed. So I, for the next minute, responded to everything they said in Italian. My girlfriend buried her head in shame. The grandfather laughed and everyone else kept looking at each other confused before telling me that they didn't speak Italian. I replied, "Then don't use your Italian heritage as an excuse to behave poorly when you can't even speak the language." They got mad, but the grandfather told them all that I was right and to be quiet. My girlfriend isn't mad. She was ashamed that her family dug so deep into me, not about my response. I think the grandfather likes me, but word from my girlfriend's sister is that all the men are furious. They think I'm a smartass and I disrespected them in their masculinity in an unforgivable way. So, am I the asshole? I think my boyfriend was or is in an incestuous relationship with his sister. I know this sounds ridiculous, but listen before you call me insane. I've dated him for a year. He's Italian and I'm an American student in Rome. Looking back, there has been signs even early on. He's 25 and she's 21. I'm an only child, so I don't have personal reference. I took all of this as cultural at first. On one of our first dates, we were talking about our families and he showed me a picture of his sister and raved about her beauty. She is actually gorgeous. She's a classic Italian beauty and very chic. I was jealous of her then, but I had no idea where this was going to go. I've only been around her a handful of times, but she's made it very clear that she does not approve of us dating. She's icy, distant, and hostile. She has said in front of me that he should have been with an Italian. She speaks several languages, including English, but every time I try to talk to her in English, she replies in Italian. "You are in Italy, speak Italian." She once told me that he'll be gone soon. My boyfriend is openly very affectionate with her. He dances with her and whispers in her ear, kisses her cheek and the side of her mouth, hugs her closely. Every time I've seen them together, he's brought her a nice gift. People here are generally affectionate, but everything combined is off. Once, at a family dinner, I was helping his mom with the food and he and his sister went out on the patio. I looked out and she was sitting on his lap. What sister does that? I also have seen her caress his bare chest at the beach. This same time at the beach, he carried her in the water with her legs wrapped around his waist and his hands were practically on her ass. If they did this when they thought I couldn't see, what do they do when they're really alone? He's also gotten into a physical fight with her boyfriend, but I'm not sure what it was over. Earlier tonight, my feeling got a lot worse. He never leaves his phone sitting around, but he did this time. He got a message from her and I looked over. She said, "My heart is yours, my king," and "We were made for each other." I left without telling him. He blew up my phone, but I have no idea what to say to him. This has been my best relationship, but this cannot be normal, can it? I am sick to my stomach and feel mortified thinking about this. I'm the asshole for not taking my boyfriend to the hospital when he'd broken his leg. For context, my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years and have lived together for the past year. We're both 23. On Friday morning, my boyfriend was fixing our gutters and he fell off the ladder, resulting in a broken leg. He was able to walk in the house due to the adrenaline and shock to tell me what happened and told me that I needed to take him to the hospital. I've been working from home for the past couple years. I had a really important meeting that afternoon that I knew I couldn't just rearrange on such short notice, so I told him I would take him after it was finished. His leg didn't look broken or bruised, and because he was able to walk on it at first, I thought he was probably just being a bit dramatic. I told him to go lie down in our guest room, which is downstairs, and gave him some ice. Around 4 p.m., he fell off the ladder around 10 a.m. His best friend came pounding on the door and immediately started an argument with me. My boyfriend had called him telling him that I was refusing to take him to the hospital and so he needed him to take him. This pissed me off. I wasn't refusing, but I had work and he didn't seem to be in pain. His friend took him and his leg was very broken. All of his friends and his parents are acting as if I profusely ignored him when in reality I was going to take him once I finished my work. So, am I in the wrong here? Offered to let my mom live with me under the exact same terms I lived with her as a teen. I don't know why in God's good name my mom thought I would be the one to come to. We don't get along. I went to live with my dad at 16 because she told me that she hated me and kicked me out. My older brother, the golden child, I know for a fact has a spare bedroom she could sleep in now that she's losing the house. My mom's situation is entirely her own fault as well, which makes this all the more annoying. She and my stepdad bought a 7-bedroom house 10 years ago, right after she left her job of 20 years to work at some stupid startup that was out of business in only 3 years. My stepdad spent the last years of his miserable life bedbound because he ignored every doctor telling him to stop shoving his face full of food at every waking moment of the day. So he died at 500 pounds and in misery. Well, when he died earlier this year, it pretty much drained the last of the money that my moron of a mother had remaining, and now the bank's taking the house back. So she shows up at my door for some reason. After mistreating me since I was a kid and ignoring me unless she wanted something since she married that thankfully dead land whale, she had the nerve to ask to live with me. It's only me and my husband in our 2-bedroom house, sure, but that spare bedroom is his office, and the basement's my art studio, and the couch in the front of the fireplace is for our lovely cats. There is no room for that wicked hag anywhere in this house, but I knew this opportunity would never come again, so I told her that she could live with us, if and only if she decided to follow the house rules. All electronics were to be turned off by 6 p.m. If she was caught with any after that, they would be taken away and sold at the next yard sale. Bedtime was 7:30. If I caught her up, I would take away all of her clothing for the week. She may only shower for 5 minutes once every 3 days. All chores must be done at the moment she wakes up. If I roll out of bed and they're not done, she will not be getting meals for the day. She must make sure that she is alert at all times. If I and hubby need something done, it has to be done at that moment, or else she will lose her bedding privileges for the night. She will be in charge of cooking one meal each day that I choose, and if it's not made to my liking, then she will not be allowed to join us and instead will eat the cheapest frozen meal available. I will be reading all of her mail, text messages, and emails. I will give her the ones that I deem acceptable communication under my roof. Her car will be my own personal travel car. She will also drive me wherever I want. She will still have to pay for gas. And last but not least, if at any point she displeases me, I will be calling my brother to pick her up from a nearby gas station. I will get to choose what she takes to put him in a torn up backpack before dropping her off without looking back. She called me a monster and told me that these conditions were inhumane and asked if I was insane. These were the exact conditions I lived under for years as a teenager. The exact conditions she tormented me with for years until she finally let me go live with the one parent that loved me. And these would be the conditions that she would suffer under if she dared to ask me to home her worthless, joy-sucking soul. I don't know where she went after she stormed out of my house. My brother called me and told me that I have the biggest balls in the family for the son that I pulled. From the sounds of it though, none of the spawn want the brood mother to live with them. I hope she finds a nice park bench to stay on. The asshole for wanting to serve my ex papers for full custody and child support for my daughter now that he has a new baby. I, 31 female, have a wonderful 7-year-old daughter that I would go to the moon and back for and have been supporting her as a single parent. My ex, 31 male, hasn't really been in her life since we split when she was 2.5. He hasn't paid child support for at least 4 years and has sporadically visited her at his parents' home when she visits. He says he will visit her while hyping her up and then not show up only to give us a BS excuse on why he never showed up, leaving her devastated and upset that he didn't spend time with her. He has blamed me for everything under the sun, which I can prove to not be true. For example, he blames me for not calling him so he can video chat with her on my days off when he doesn't even attempt to try in the first place on his days off. He even stated that he couldn't pay child support because he was rebuilding his car. My ex had seen multiple girls in the past 4 years but has been seeing his current girlfriend for about a year at this point, and she has a 3-year-old daughter. He shunted our daughter to be his girlfriend's daughter's father doing father-daughter activities, like going to the pumpkin patch, holidays, and spending time with the 3-year-old. He forgot his own daughter's birthday for 2 years in a row and possibly for a 3rd time this year. His family and I heard a rumor that his girlfriend was pregnant 3 to 4 months ago. His parents wanted to be in the baby's life, and I was excited that my daughter would have a half-sibling since I don't want more kids. He vehemently denied that she was pregnant and we left the subject alone. Well, about 10 minutes before I started my shift, I was told and shown that my ex's girlfriend had their baby girl that morning. I was livid. He had lied to all of us that the baby was coming and severed whatever trust with him we had left. I started looking at family attorneys in my city because I know this will get messy. He wants parental rights without having to lift a finger or pay child support. I want full custody since our daughter lives with me full time. Before people ask, no, he's not in our daughter's life unless he wants others to see he's being a good dad. The last time he visited her, she didn't even recognize him at all. Yes, I have filed for child support several times in the past only for them to die in court because he didn't want to sign the paperwork. I'm at my wit's end with him. I've been to a couple of close friends and close coworkers about this, and the majority are saying that I'm the asshole because I should be excited for the new baby and that with the new baby he won't have the funds for child support. Story time about when I messed up when I convinced my parents to do an intervention. What I'm about to share happened more than a month ago, and at the time there was nothing funny about it. Now, it cracks me up and makes me cringe whenever I do think about it. I, 18 male, still live with my parents, and Christianity plays a big role in my family. I'm not sure if I believe in what they believe, but one thing was certain. My brother, 25, believed there was only one God. drugs. At some point in his life, getting high was no longer about having fun, it was about feeding an addiction. When he started stealing from my family to support his drug habit, that's when my dad called the cops and had him arrested. My dad's plan was not to send my brother to prison, he was just buying time to come up with another solution. He called a family meeting and we brainstormed. Besides praying and hoping that a higher power magically makes my brother stop using drugs, rehab was the next best thing. My dad wanted to literally drag my brother to the nearest rehab center and force him to check in. I suggested that we try an intervention just like the ones on TV, where loved ones confronted the drug addict with letters that they wrote to show how much they care and hopefully inspire the addict to seek professional help. My family agreed to do the intervention based on my passionate pitch. We wrote our letters and waited for my brother to get released from jail the following day. When my brother entered the house, the living room was occupied with family members, church members, a few of my brother's friends, and one of his ex-girlfriends. I never expected my parents to basically invite the whole town, but there they all were. My mom explained to my brother what was happening before volunteering to be the first person to read the letter. My brother was not about that life. He told my mom to stop reading and allow him to go upstairs or he was going to get upset and say some shit he can't take back. My mom kept reading, which prompted my brother to roast the shit out of all of us. He made fun of my mom for being addicted to Botox and always running on the treadmill with her arms straight down. He asked my dad what God thinks about him paying for porn. He accused me of sucking another guy's D and literally pointed to the person who owned that D. He was right. He advised my uncle to lose 200 pounds before trying to save anyone else's life. And he said that his ex-girlfriend's belly button looked like a butthole, which was the real reason why he broke up with her. It went on and on until an argument broke out between my brother and everyone else. If my brother was not the tallest person in the room, my guess is someone would have punched him in the face long ago. Luckily, it didn't go that far. My brother eventually went upstairs and didn't come down until no one else was left with my parents and I. It was awkward between all of us. My dad and I were unable to look at each other for the rest of the week, and what made it even worse was the fact that neither of us denied what my brother said about us. It was just never mentioned again. Since then, my brother agreed to go to rehab. He's been clean for 22 days and it seems like he's doing better. My mom stopped using the treadmill and is now running in the park early mornings when none of us are awake to see if she's actually moving her arms or not. It's still unclear if my dad watches porn, let alone pays for it. I'm dating a girl and she knows that I've sucked a D. I think they're all done with the drama in my family because I don't see much of them anymore. Am I the asshole for crying to my husband? My 18-year-old son, Eric, just graduated from high school. I'm very proud of him because he has ADHD and school has always been a struggle for him, but he's going to college and his future is promising. I was out with two of my girlfriends and both have children the same age as Eric. Well, I excused myself to the washroom and right before I was about to go back into the room, I overheard one of them saying that I must be disappointed in Eric. Disappointed because he's not studying law or medicine, etc. like their kids. This caught my attention and I kept listening. They continued to talk about how he barely graduated and then they made a few odd jokes about how Eric's probably going to follow in my footsteps and marry a rich older lady. They talked about my son's reputation and laughed about how he clearly cares more about his face and his future, just like his mother. This hurt me a lot. I was heartbroken. Not only were they insulting me, but my son as well. I walked into the room and they went silent, but acted as if they weren't just shit-talking. I didn't mention it and simply decided to never hang out with them ever again. But when I got home, my husband asked me if anything was wrong and I just began to cry and told him everything. I've been friends with him for a year and gosh, I don't even know. He was really angry. He had invited them and their families to go on a quick 2-day trip and he called their husbands and canceled. When they asked why, he told them there was no way in hell he was going to pay for two bitter mean girls that insult his wife and son on vacation. Well, I got a call from the two and they were really upset. They said I need to tell him to rethink his decision and that they were just joking around because their kids were really looking forward to the trip. I told them that I didn't want to, but they said that I should have talked to them instead of crying to my husband like a weak-ass bitch. I told them to fuck off and they replied with, "This is exactly why we hate you." Wait, sorry, are you gonna go cry to your husband again? That stung a little and now I'm wondering, am I the asshole for not being straight up and crying to my husband instead? The two think I am and my sister agrees that I should have dealt with it myself and I went too far telling my husband.